You're listening to the Hunting Land Man podcast. This is Slade Priest, your host, the Hunting Land Man.
Rack buck down here on opening day.
If you're interested in rack bucks and real estate and everything that has to do with hunting property, this is the podcast for you.
Well, here we are, episode 20 of the Hunting Land Man podcast. I got New Ryan and myself on today. A really good topic, kind of a last-minute topic, but I think it's going to be a really good one now that I've been thinking about it. How to price your land. So if you're getting ready to sell land or you want to know what your land's worth, this is how we go about pricing land. And it's not just a number out of a hat or land sales for this much in an area. There is a process, and we're going to tell you all about it. Before we get too far, as always, this podcast is brought to you by Southern Ag Credit. They take really good care of myself and all of our clients. You know, they're a great company. There's other good companies out there. We use Southern Ag Credit more than the rest, and there's a reason why. So call Alex or Austin or any of the crew with Southern Ag Credit, Nathan, they'll hook you up. All right, here we go, episode 20, and thank you, New Ryan. Ryan's been in charge of this thing since day one, and our goal in the first year was 20 episodes, and we're maybe 53rd week since we started, so we got pretty close to there, and really it was my fault. I went out of town last week, had a good vacation to Virgin Islands, and didn't answer my phone very much, which was hard for me to do, but it turned out real good. Ryan had to ship while I was gone, and we didn't sell anything when I was gone, but as soon as we got back, we sold, what was it, the 127?
We had the 127 under contract Sunday night, Monday morning. We had 2 showings on it. Second showing, he was ready to put in an offer. So,
and that, before we get going on how you price your land, that's something we need to talk about, is a market update. We are February the 23rd. My birthday's tomorrow. Y'all don't spend too much, but of course I would like a little something for my birthday tomorrow. But anyway, we're February the 23rd filming this, and we are rolling in 22 just as 2020 and 21. We've seen maybe an increase. We've got 12 pending right now, and we have 3 contracts out, so we could have as many as 14 or 15 pending by the end of the week. Actually, possibly more than that, because we just put 2 new listings on, good listings online yesterday. The things, of course, big stuff is still selling more than it ever has, but the stuff, 400,000 to $1 million, that mid-range kind of stuff for what we do, good Lord, it don't last. It lasts days and hours. We had 133 acres in Adams County. We sold it the first week? Mm-hmm. 4 or 5 showings?
Yeah, 4 days, I think. It was already in the contract.
And
put it online on a Monday and had it under contract that Friday.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and then the 127, Amite County, connecting to the forest with a camp. What, second showing you said? Mm-hmm. And all of these are like 95% of asking price. So there's not like they were pretty stern on their asking price. So as we always say, right now in this seller's market, which is definitely still in the seller's market, is if you see something you like, act fast and act strong. We don't see everybody, interest rates rose a little bit, and they did. Have we seen a slowdown? Absolutely not. They hadn't changed. The interest rates hadn't changed that much, and we're still in a supply and demand. If you're looking for stuff from 100,000 to $1 million, it's stuff that almost doesn't exist right now. It's very, very hard to find, and good big stuff is hard to find. We do have a good inventory of listings right now. If you hadn't checked us out, huntinglandman.net. Check out all our listings. We've got some good stuff right now. All right, let's go to it. How to price your land. All right, Ryan, he's a year in as an agent now, and he asks me these questions all the time. How did you come up with that price? So I've been helping him when he's been looking at tracks. He's helping him price. And so I thought Ryan would be perfect to have on here because he is sincerely asking how we go about this. I'm gonna kind of go down the list. And we'll just go as they come. All right, the first thing, of course, we set land prices by comps. What are comps? That's comparable sales. Land is so much different than houses in this neighborhood sell for $222 a square foot. That's not how land is. Typically, y'all have heard us before. We used to say, okay, dirt prices are here, timber prices are here, and this is what stuff sells for in this area. It's changed a little. Timber market has been just so-so the last couple of years, but the recreation market is unbelievable. in your really good recreational areas, your Adams, Amite, Wilkinson, Claiborne, Jefferson, it's kind of like this. Good hunting tracks sell for these numbers. And, okay, what makes a good hunting track? Is it the terrain is a big thing in the river counties. How rough a track is can severely affect the prices. They may be good hunting tracks, but people, with kids riding four-wheelers, accessibility, how hard it is to make food plots and stuff, those affect, prices. Flood ground, of course. Flood ground is appraised and valued totally different than ground that doesn't flood. So it's good to, your comparable sales, that's what we're really going off of. And I got a lot more that kind of goes into that. Ryan, what are your, I see you over there thinking, you have any comments or concerns thus far?
Well, I mean, my biggest thing, when you start talking about, one of my bullet points right here, which it kind of stems off from what you were talking about, and we are kind of getting a little deep into it right now, but, me as an agent, now starting to try to get some of my new stuff, working on a couple of different deals here and there. Biggest thing for me starting out, and it's simple. It's so simple, and I know it is. It's going to be a simple answer for you, but you say, okay, timber, dirt, well, what about pasture? Because I hear a lot of people talk about, pasture land right now, very rare, very hard to get your hands on, going to be a little bit higher in priced. Just kind of go into depth on that as well, going along with timber.
Yeah, well, pasture is a whole different animal, because pasture, what was that? pasture, if you have improved pasture, good ground, either ryegrass ground or hay ground, summertime ground, fence, cross fence, working chutes, that's, what is the pasture. But pasture is usually a little easier, because this pasture sold for this. Then you go into what area it is, how's the road frontage, how's the area, and that can affect it. Mm-hmm. That can affect it a little bit. But pasture, so where you have to take that in consideration. Let's say you have a tract that's half hunting land, half pasture, which we run into sometimes. Mm-hmm. Those type of tracts, you have to say, okay, if pasture sells for $3,300 an acre in this area and timberland sells for that, you kind of got a blended thing. And also, that's extremely attractive if you have both. So maybe you bump it up just a little bit because it's extremely attractive. And look, it's hard right now to price a place because things are selling so fast, and things that 3 years ago I told you you're crazy if you think you'll get that much money, they're selling for that. So it's a little bit tough right now, but you still have to be realistic. And I'm not going to take a listing that's just stupidly overpriced unless I have something to justify. If I can justify the price by a comparable sale or anything like that, I will take the listing. All right. So of course we're members of the MLS. Not all people who sell land are, your Whitetail Properties, National Land Realty. A lot of those guys, Mossy Oak Properties, are not on the MLS. I think it's a good tool that you can get on there and find old sales and things like that to help, hey, these are what the sales are, and, to get your comps. Some, area knowledge, I think, is number one. Like, fortunately for me in my office here at Southern States Realty, we sell more land than anybody in Southwest Mississippi. And so we kind of have our own comps. I can walk down the hall and say, hey, what is this? What's this worth? What's this worth? And kind of confirm some of the things maybe I was already thinking. And I do that. If I get something in Pike County, I'll walk down and I'll talk to Scott, or I'll talk to Stewart, because they work those areas a lot, talk to Kyle Bass. And, and then, of course, in Wilkinson County, I've got most of the comps, so it's not that I can do all that in my head. In Amite County, we, Brent Barron, who we had on the last podcast, he does a lot in Amite County, and I do too, and so does Scott. So, we can bounce those things off. I can pull up my map writer on X and look at the area, and I say, oh yeah, this sold for that sold for that, and compare the property. So the way we said earlier, it's not like it's $200 a square foot like it is a house. So you take a place and you say, okay, this 100 acres of pine, 15-year-old pine timber with a couple of hardwood bottoms sold for this much. Okay, you're not going to probably have the exact acreage in the same place. Yeah. So you're going to say, okay, this is around about we're going to say this dirt sold for this timber sold for this, and we're going to come up. I mean, I'm going to be truthful with you. It's an educated guess. What we're trying to do is figure out what a place would appraise for, and then I like to put about 10% on top of it for normal negotiation. Now, usually we run about 93 to 94% of our asking price is what we get. Lately, with the hot market, we've been running more like 95.
96, yeah.
And so I take all that in consideration.
Now, with area, and you may or may not, but kind of stemming off on that a little bit, do you, and this is going down, like this is getting real technical about it, but when you were going to price a tract, do you take into consideration in the area of surrounding landowners, small, large, just kind of depending on what it's sitting in the middle of?
Yeah, I don't think it's or
is that getting too technical?
Well, no, it depends on the area. Okay, so let's say Wilson County, where we sell the most at. If everybody wants 40 acres in the middle of the guy with 4,000, so yes, that could affect it. If it's say a Walthall County or something like that, somewhere that's maybe not as traditionally bought for big hunting land, maybe not quite as attractive, but it is. Yeah. The area would depend on the degree. And also smaller tracts like that, especially when we talk about like the national forest.
Because that was my next. Yeah,
they're bought more like lots and less like acres. Well, Slade, what do you mean by that? If you say, well, right now the going price for smaller tracts in Wilson County is $4,000 an acre, and then I say, okay, well, here's 5 acres by the national forest. Different ball game. Yeah. If that 5 acres got good power, good water, good road frontage, and good access to the forest, and good campsite, you may get $7,000 an acre just because it's a way better price point for somebody. It's more about what the land can provide you and less about price per acre. Yeah. It's bought more like a lot, for instance.
So those factors, can come into play depending on where you're at.
Yes, they can come into play. And when you look at this stuff from a seller, buyer, or an agent, you look at a place, and sometimes when you ride on one, you're like, oh man, I'd like to own this. Buyers get that feeling too. Yeah. Sometimes places just sell for more because of the way they make you feel when you go on them. Yeah. Like you drive in a place and it's got couple of 100-year-old live oaks coming in. It's like you can't replicate that. It's not a comp. Quotation marks, if y'all can't hear my air quotation marks.
That emotional appeal.
Yeah, you can't. And look, these places are bought. Most of the stuff we sell is bought with emotion. The emotion of a grandkid killing their first deer, the emotion of hearing that turkey gobble on March 15th. And so there's some things that aren't just quantifiable, and places just sell for more because that's what that area sells for.
So you go in, you were kind of starting to go in on one of my bullet points. You're talking about the drive-in. When the buyer drives up, immediate reaction. I had written down cleanliness, having your place set up to where when a buyer does come on the property, you're not having limbs overhanging in your face when you're riding on the buggy. You got clean food plots, this and that. And do you take in? Because I know we've been to a property before, and you kind of been back and forth with the seller on price, and you go and you finally lay your eyes on it, and you're driving through, and you got limbs coming into the buggy the whole entire. And I can remember you saying, "You come in, clean these roads up. Yeah, I'll put this property on the market for this price, but until then."
It's not going to bring
you can't bring the buyers in it unless you got that.
And what you're touching on, it's almost like a human emotion thing. Okay, so when you unload the buggy, the first 5 minutes is important on a property. And this is for me too, because it sets your mood. It's kind of like if you start your day right, the rest of your day is better. So it starts your mood. You get there, you unload the buggy in a pretty spot. You're not standing in a snake hole or a mud hole or a logging ramp that's washing out. Those type things are a nice entrance. It sets your mood. And in the first 5 minutes, you may have already bought this place in your head or put a price on this place in your head, and it's going to take something really negative. It's going to take something really negative to unsell it to you at that point. On the other hand, if you start way down here on the negative end, it's going to take something really positive to sell it to you on the back. So it's eye appeal is huge. I have a really good example of this. I have a place old ride and I bought in Missouri right now. And we hadn't cleaned it up or anything yet, but Bear Cub wanted to go show it the other day, yesterday. And he said, man, it just is ugly around those old camps and stuff like that, which is all stuff we plan on tearing down and hauling off and stuff like that. We just hadn't got to it yet. So when that buyer went on there, he saw a negative, and then I don't know if he found enough positive where he's going to buy it. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. If you ride in there and it already looks good, if the food plots are planted, if the box stands are up, and you know how you ride into a bottom and it's like, man, look how I got a stand set up and these feeders set up. You don't have to have a vision. It's already set up. There, gives you appeal. And it's definitely worth taking the time to, especially if the wife's coming. If the wife's coming, she doesn't want to have limbs hitting her, be standing in a snake hole, get stuck. All that type of stuff is going to put a negative vibe on her. She wants to leave that track and say, hey, if you buy me a yellow buggy like this and I can cruise around like I did this afternoon, husband, I'll approve of you buying this. Yeah. So that's very important. Another good place we get the comps and like Alex Reiser or my buddies with Louisiana Land Bank or any of these people, you call the banks and they usually can provide you with comps in the area. I kind of pick the bank that does the most in this area that I know the best, and they can provide you with good comps. And then, of course, we had Landon on here one time. I will shoot stuff over to Landon sometime, maps and things like that, and just kind of see what his reaction is on. And a lot of times I have all this figured out in my head already. I just need somebody else to agree with me, to argue my point to them before I'm trying to argue my point to a buyer or seller, just to make sure that I'm doing everything on my end, because my goal is not only to get you, Mr. Seller, the most money you can for you, but it's also to protect you from yourself and tell you reality, because I'm not doing my job if I don't sell your place. If I don't sell your place, nobody's winning. So not that I'm trying to sell your place for cheap, but here's reality and here's what it can sell for. If I put it, 30% over market value, I mean, heck, you might as well put it 100% because it ain't selling. So, you protect the seller from theirself and have realistic expectations about things. And then when you bring a buyer out there, we represent both sides of a lot of deals. I've got to let a buyer know that he's making a good decision, because that's who we are. We're not trying to take advantage of anybody. We want our buyers to recommend us to other people, and they say, look, Slade walked me through the process. He told me why this property was worth this. And then when we got to appraisal, it appraised fine. When we come, okay, we've been talking about land and timber and things like that. All right, improvements. So turnkey is always hot, and it's even hotter right now. As the world gets busier and busier, more baseball games, more softball games, more cheerleading, it's more. We're just a busy. We don't even feel like we're moving if we're on extremely busy. And so turnkey is huge. Now, as a general rule of thumb, you're not going to make a lot of money off improvements. Your goal is to just make it more turnkey. For instance, if you have a 300-acre place and you put a $250,000 camp, you're not going to make a lot of money on that camp. But you can probably get your $250,000 back out of it, or close to it. It kind of gets in a blended price. What I see I see a lot of people doing is, you buy 100 acres and then you put a $400,000 camp on it. It's too much. The camp has to balance the place. For instance, that's Red over there making some noise. For instance, if you have a 1,000-acre place, you can put a $500,000 camp. Those numbers kind of work. If you have a 200-acre place, you can't put a $500,000 camp because people are wanting more land if they're spending that much money. So you got to be smart there. And it's okay if you want to put $1 million camp on your place, but when you call me, I'm going to tell you reality that you're probably not going to get that much money out of it. It's very seldom that you do. So it's, if you're worried about your kids or your grandkids, give me a call. I will walk you through. I actually have people say, what's too much? I like the metal building. Modular homes are really smart these days. If you're going to do a cabin and you're going to spend $150 a square foot on it, make sure you make it where most everybody would like it. Don't have something that's just so unique that nobody will like it. You gotta be. You can't spend $400 a square foot and expect to get it out. To get it out. You may love it, and your wife may love it, but somebody else could spend $200 a square foot and accomplish their goals. Yeah. Of course, okay. Shops are a big nice thing. Shops that are everybody's got tractors on these places. Everybody's got side-by-sides, deer stands, feed, that sort of thing, place to clean deer. So those are important. And usually you get, if you get a $30,000 shop or a $15,000 pole barn, usually you get about what they're worth. You're not going to make a lot of money there, but it does make the place more attractive, easier to sell because it's turnkey. Stands, ponds, lakes, plots, yes. So go ahead.
One of my bullet points was the water appeal. I mean, not just a pond,
sellability,
lake, pond, big creek. I mean,
nobody ever rode on a track and said, "Man, I wish it didn't have this big old pretty lake."
Yeah.
I mean, everybody loves water. Everybody loves nice creeks. Of course, creeks are either there or not. You can't create them. Ponds are hard to get your money out of. It's all ponds are, every one of them is different, man. I'm about to put a pond on a place I plan on selling. Because I think I can do it. It's just a perfect little spot. I can do it for $40 grand-ish, and I think it will add that much to the place.
How big?
It's going to be about 4 acres, so about $10,000 per surface acre, which is kind of a rule of thumb that I've heard from some bankers / appraisers. Don't know how much truth it is to it, but places, everybody wants a lake. You just you can't spend $1 million on one and think you're going to get the money back. You got to be realistic. And there's certain, they're hard to get a whole lot of your money back, but everybody wants them. They do make a place more sellable, but sometimes it's hard to get that appraisal value back out of them. Stands, I think they help. I think they're not like a must-have, but like nice box stands. And I'm not saying you got to go spend $3,500 on a redneck or whatever, but nice box stands that, we can put a value on them. So if a guy comes in to buy your place and he says, I'll give you this much, and, you can negotiate and say, look, I spent, $17,000 on these box stands, and you can remove them, and he knows he'll have that, it'll cost him much to replace. So you can usually get a lot of that value back out. Now, something that is, speaking of turnkey, there's very few, and Ryan will tell you this, there's very few tracks I ever ride on and say, I wouldn't do anything different. Very few. So big plots and things like that, man, they make a place sell. And they do. I don't know if you're getting your money back out of them because I don't know how much money you spent. But, man, they make a place sell. People are busy. That is a huge part of turnkey. They know. I mean, box stands, you can put up 10 box stands in a weekend. That's not the end. We can fix that real easy. Plots, you got to get your dozer guy out there. Most people don't know what they're doing, which we can help with, but most people, they're worried, can I do this? How much is it going to cost? So if all that stuff's done and they know I can crawl in this box stand and I can see 15 deer and these are the deer pictures right there, all those unknowns make for a higher price. Now, I cannot answer whether you can get your money back out of them because I don't know what you're going to spend to make them. I've got formulas of ways I've spent money to make them where you can get your money back out of them, but you can't go dig up 200-year-old oak stumps and get your money back out of them. It depends on the property. But all the ponds, lakes, stands, creeks, all that turnkey, that it just makes a place more appealing. And sometimes when a place just looks good and turnkey and just great like that, we put a little extra price on it just because it's going to sell. That if you bring 3 of your clients out there, one of them's going to buy it because, we've been on that buggy enough. Do we know what catches people's attention? When you ride over that hill and you see that perfect campsite and that lake right there, it's hard for you not to buy it. And that, from doing it over the years. I get so many buyers that they look at a place and, I love it. And the first thing, they want too much for it, which I get. Everybody wants to get the best deal out there. But there is a reason, Mr. Buyer, that you love it. There's a reason for that. And that reason, we had a podcast on this, the right spot costs more. So you have to sometimes pull back your pride and say, you know what? I'm not going to win on this, and I'm okay with it because this property is so nice, and this is what I'm looking for. Because if it takes you 2 years to find the exact property you're looking for and also get the best deal, you missed out you missed 2 years with your kids growing up, or your grandkids, or your family that you're getting, or yourself that you're getting hunt on this property.
And even then, when you got a big list like that, you got a lot of boxes to check off, and you're trying to get it at a deal, you may not even get it in 2 years. It may be 10 years.
That's right.
That does not come around.
You'll look to death.
Yeah.
And we've got clients that I've got clients that have been looking for the right place since I started real estate 15 years ago. But let me see. I too much camp. I talked about that. Okay, this is something good I like. Okay, this is for my buyers out there. When you're looking with an agent, if it's a listing agent or if you have an agent, get him to ask the listing agent, how did you come up with the price? Very good question. Okay, Ryan, I'm a buyer. Yeah. You got a place listed. Okay, you got the place listed at $500,000. Looks like you got about $100,000 camp. But I'm going to ask you, how did you come up with the price of this place? And you say, all right, Slay, well, this much timber, it's this much this, with $3,500 an acre plus the cost of the camp. We figured we put about this much on it for the pond, and So how he came up with the price, and you can say, well, I don't think that's... Yeah. If you're going to argue the price down, you need to have a reason, and that's how you come up with the reason. Yeah. You can't just say, I don't want to pay that much. You can, but you're probably going to get a negative response. You can justify dirt values, you can justify timber values, you can justify camp values. So, that's a good question as a buyer, or if you have an agent, to ask the listing agent, hey, how did y'all come up with the price? We get that question all the time, but it's good for people out there that don't know. Okay, ask the seller, how did you come up with the price? It can get you a lot of places as far as figuring out where they putting value. I got an email this morning, and this is a normal email I get. Slade, I like that place. I like that price. I like that place, and I like the area, but I think y'all are overpriced. And it sounds like I'm being I'm being negative to people when I don't like to, but I know I'm right. I said, look, you may not agree with it, but it's going to sell. Like, and how are you going to disagree with a seller and try to Jew him down whenever he's going to sell it for that price? It doesn't matter if you don't agree with it. For instance, had a guy this morning text me and say, hey, Slade, I like that 108 acres you sent out this morning or yesterday. I just think y'all are a little high on the price. And I told him, I said, I'd be willing to bet it brings 95% of asking price or more. And I do not think I'm wrong. I wouldn't have priced it. I set the price. I set the price for the sellers, and I wouldn't have priced it right there if I didn't think that. Now, I don't have a crystal ball, but me and you know that if it's around 100 acres, 150 acres right now, it's 1 million people out there looking. And in that area, heck, we just sold 105 acres that wasn't near as good as that tract just down the road. And we sold a 296, and we sold a 48, and we sold a 27.
All those were in the first 2 weeks.
In the first 2 weeks at those type of prices. So we're not saying things that aren't true. I just would like to educate my clients to let them know that, when we set prices, we're very specific about why we're setting them and why we think they'll bring those prices. So, if you think you're a little high, usually, you got 5 to 10% negotiation, but, we're probably not allowing for any more than that. Yeah. And look, we can always be wrong. And some places don't sell for I owned Dixon Creek for 3 years, and it was gorgeous. Yeah. Loaded with turkeys, loaded with big bucks. Timber. I thought it would have sold in the first 5 minutes, and it took 3 years.
I think that was one of my first questions I'd ever asked you when I started working.
Everybody
was why is this thing not sold? Yeah.
Because it was gorgeous.
Yeah, it was.
But I still can't answer that question. But the guy bought it, he loves it, and it's loaded up with turkeys and deer, and he had some good deer on camera this year. Well, you have anything else? I got some other things off topic.
My biggest one in this. It's because I'm working a deal on it right now that is why I'm asking this. So this is more of a me question, but deeded easements. Because I know from a buyer's perspective, a little scary, but I've also heard it on the other end of, well, the deeded easements nowadays, you really don't affect the price much anymore. What is your take on that?
Some people hate it. Some people love it. You do knock out some of your buyers. You can't help that. You knock out some of your buyers, which can affect the price. The thing about it is, I wish I have 132 acres where my house is. I wish I was half a mile up the road.
Yeah, you said that
and the
week.
And the reason I say that is the front. I'm up on the highway on Highway 24, high traffic highway. I mean, the front, a couple 100 yards of my place, I don't use except to grow timber because the deer aren't up there. Yep. The deer are farther back, so I lose a little bit of that. If you're not planning on splitting the place or anything like that, I have no problem with the easement. The negatives part of the easement, make sure it's a good road, or you can improve the road.
Yeah.
And, of course, if you can get utilities, power and water, whenever you want to get, which water wells these days is how we normally do that sort of thing, so it's not a big deal, but make sure you can get power. But I don't think it really affects a whole lot. You need to understand the easement. You need to ask, not me, you need to ask your attorney, okay, what does this easement mean? Can I transfer this easement? Can I, can I improve this easement? Because there's language in those things, Is there a certain time I can access this property? All these things we need to know. But so to answer your question, maybe a little they affect the price, but not a whole lot. And then, and how far is the easement? Yeah. Is there a road already there? Because that affects. If the road's not there, if there's just there's an easement right here, but there's no road to get there, that does affect you.
Yeah, well, I think that was my biggest one.
And, with all that being said on how to price your land, look, some things just happen. Some places don't sell, some places do sell, and surprises on either. Nobody's perfect, but as a general thumb, we're usually pretty right about these things. All right, next topic. It's almost turkey season. We started the podcast talking about it was almost turkey season last year, and getting excited. As y'all remember, we had a Jake overload last year, and we should make them pay for that this year. We should have a lot of dumb 2-year-olds, which is my favorite turkey. I don't care if any of them live past 2. I mean, I like a big hook turkey, but I like one that likes to play the game more than anything. So super pumped up about that. Actually stepped out the truck this morning right after daylight looking at a dozer job. Didn't hear a turkey gobbling, but I walked right down the hill. It's a big old gobbler track. So excited about that. It's the place I own where I'm putting the pond. And so it should be an exciting turkey season. We did kind of a market update. I think within the next 2 podcasts, we're going to kind of announce publicly what we're doing new hunting show wise. We have some big changes coming, exciting changes, a little bit scary, but we got some big changes coming. I think it's going to be awesome. I think people that follow this podcast, people who follow us on social media and know us are going to be super excited about it. A totally different twist on the show, and it's not going to be like anything ever done out there before. And I know that's a term people use, not like anything. No, this is not like anything done in the outdoor space ever done before. And we're hoping to have late March, early April, our first episode out there on that. And I will, maybe next podcast we will do, we will announce that. I'm trying to think. We're going to probably do a podcast at convention, and maybe the one after that we'll do, hey, turkey season's here, and this is what we're doing. And we'll have Caleb on that.
I guess the weekend we get back is Youth Weekend from convention.
Youth Weekend from United Country Convention. And Caleb, which I will introduce him whenever we start. It'll be fun. Y'all be listening for that in probably 2 episodes. All right, I had to, Ryan's been on here a bunch of times, so I can't ask him the $1 million question because he's, of course, answered it before. I have a better question here we go. All right, of all the tracks that we, being the Hunting Land Man team, have listed, if you had to buy one right now, and let's not do, of course, the most expensive one. If you had to own one right now, which one would it be and why? Good question.
Is this what we currently have listed or what we've listed and sold since I started?
You pick.
Oh, good Lord.
It's a tough question. So Ryan's been here a year. We sold $57 million worth of real estate last year, so he has a lot to choose from. I'll say this. You
should have told me this beforehand so I could be thinking about it. That's a lot of properties.
You hadn't been to Drake's Bayou that I contracted. That's a good one.
But I've seen the pictures on it. It looks pretty solid.
It would be in your thought process, but See, you can't include that because you hadn't been there. He's a duck hunter, so he's considering that. That's what I was thinking.
I'd have to say Glengola. I mean, have we put it online or anything?
So Glengola, if you're interested, what is Glengola? Go look at my YouTube page. It's the only place where. Okay, so Glengola, I'll say this.
Yeah.
It's actually 5,600 acres in Fort Adams, Mississippi that we have listed. It's not going public, and you hadn't seen a lot of advertising around there because we have a part of it sold already to. We have 4,000 acres listed, and we have a part of it sold already to basically adjoining landowner. Yeah. We're waiting to get that closed, doing some surveys and stuff now. We're actually working an offer on another portion of it. Glengola is blacktop road frontage. And look, it's still available. We don't have a deal on it. So if anybody's looking for something like this, and it's not going to be any small tracks, it's going to have a lot of zeros behind any of these deals. Blacktop road frontage, 1 hour from Baton Rouge. You turn left, you're in the hills, chasing deer and turkeys, squirrels, all that kind of stuff. You turn right, you're chasing deer, ducks, and catching sac-a-lait, all off blacktop road frontage. 500-year-old cypress trees in the bottoms. I mean, it's unlike if you're like, what in the world is he talking about? Go look at my YouTube page, Hunting Landman, and look at the video. We're gonna probably go on live with some portions of that here soon. We're just being respectful of our buyers that are already working deals on it, and trying to get some surveying done and kind of figure out some things. But really cool property. I was thinking that
hands down my favorite video, without a doubt. Out of all the videos I made, that one from the opening scene, just you can just tell it's special.
It really is. It really is. It's a good track, and it's one of the ones that's letting us start off with a really good year. Like I said, we got 12 pending, got 3 contracts out, got 2 listings went on yesterday. We're rocking and rolling. A negative thing, when you're selling as much as we've been selling right now, you got to keep as many listings coming as you're selling because you're running out of inventory. And we're not right now. We've been very fortunate, and we're always working on new listings. So if we don't have the things that you're interested in right now, we're getting them every day. Like yesterday, we didn't have 100 acres in Amite County for sale. Yeah. Today we do. We got that one. We got a 525 acres, good timber tract, Amite County price right to sell. Really good tract. Got a couple gobblers on it. We saw the other day. Well, Ryan saw the other day, and I saw the tracks. So we've got some good stuff right now. This year is rocking and rolling. I do not see prices going down, nor do people smarter than me see prices going down for the foreseeable future. I know people are out there, yeah, right, slaves, this thing will have to end soon. Well, we've been saying it for 2 years, and it's I listen to people way smarter than me in the real estate financial game, and we're not even close to there.
I can remember when I first started, y'all talking about there's no way we'll top 2020 and 2021. We topped it, and now same conversation. Now we've started out. I think we're probably, in terms of bigger I mean, we're starting off better this year than last year, without a doubt.
Mm-hmm. And then we've got some big contracts out there right now. So, well, this was a good, pretty quick one. I think we really answered the question: how do you price your land from a buyer and seller standpoint? Remember, if from a buyer standpoint, it's not always about winning the negotiation whenever you're buying a land. Find out why they priced it this way, and if they have justification for it. You can't just say, "Oh, they want $500,000. I'm going to give them $400 because I want to win." I mean, that's not fair. I mean, and not that you have to be fair, but don't expect if you don't figure out why. But super excited about convention and what we have going on. In turkey season with the new show. Got a lot going on there. It's going to be real fun. Got a lot going on in Missouri. Went ahead and put
this season?
We'll be up there during we're going turkey hunt in Missouri and Iowa when we go. We got Walnut Hills on the market. We bought another 198 that we're getting cleaned up and going to get it on the market and all this kind of stuff. So we got a lot going on. But that's going to be about it to how to price your land. New Ryan and I are going to head to lunch, and won't be long. We'll be chasing turkey birds. So y'all have a blessed day.
Hey, thank you for listening to the Hunt and Landman podcast. If you will, take a moment, give us a 5-star written review, guys. This really helps us out. And if you know anybody you think will be interested in this podcast, please share it with them.